Welcome. I'm Deputy Chief Michael Repose from the Hopkins Hill Fire Department in Coventry. I put this EMT renewal requirements together to help you get through the requirements that you need for your EMT license. The objectives for this lesson are we're going to cover the requirements for renewing your EMT license in the state of Rhode Island. We're going to look at Rhode Island Rules and Regulations 216-RI-CR-20-10-2 as it pertains to renewing your EMT license. We're going to review the national components for the EMT, the AEMT, and the paramedic at the national level. We're going to look at the Rhode Island state topics that are applicable to Rhode Island EMTs and National Register EMTs for the recertification of 2023, 2024, and 2025. We're going to discuss some individual components. We're going to look at some examples of those. And we're going to look at the CAPC program, understand what is an approved CAPC program when you take these. We're going to look at some places also, where can I get these CAPC approved courses? I have a few listed for you here. And review the process for uploading your certificates to train. So any certificates that you have outside of train, you need to upload. So we're going to look at the process for that as well. Let's take a look at Rhode Island's Rules and Regulations. 2.5, Section C, Requirements for Renewal of a license at all level of EMS. Applicants for license renewal in any one of the levels of EMS practitioner must renew prior to the date of its expiration by submitting a completed application form and application fee stated in the fee structure for licensing, laboratory, and administrative services provided by the Department of Health. This is in Part 10-05-2 of this title. If this is applicable, firefighters in the state of Rhode Island are exempt from this fee. Requirements for EMR practitioners. If you are an EMR practitioner, you must maintain your National Registry EMT certification, Emergency Medical Responder. Requirements for EMT practitioner license renewal. An EMT licensed after January 1st, 2012 must maintain their National Registry EMT certification as an EMT. An EMT that was licensed prior to January 1st, 2012 must complete the requirements of the Rhode Island Continued Competency Program or maintain a National Registry EMT certification as an EMT. The requirements for an AEMT practitioner license renewal. An AEMT must maintain a National Registry EMT certification as an AEMT. The requirements for an AEMTC practitioner license renewal. An AEMTC must complete the requirements of the Rhode Island Continued Competency Program or maintain a National Registry certification as an EMT. Requirements for the paramedic practitioner license renewal. A paramedic must maintain the National Registry EMT certification as a paramedic. In the Rhode Island Rules and Regulations, the requirements for renewal of a lapsed EMS practitioner's license. An EMS practitioner whose license has lapsed for a period of less than 1 year may be relicensed upon submission of a license application and documentation of the licensure renewal requirements. An AEMT practitioner whose license has been lapsed for a period of 1 to 2 years may be relicensed upon submission of a license application and documentation of the licensure renewal requirements, successful completion of the appropriate National Registry EMT exam, or presentation of a current National Registry EMT certification. An EMT practitioner whose license has lapsed for a period greater than 2 years or longer will be subject to the requirements of an initial license. In this chart here, we're looking at what the National Registry requires for the recertification of EMTs at their different levels. You see EMR here. We're not going to spend time on EMR. We're going to focus our time in this program on the EMT, the AEMT, and the National Registry Paramedic. So let's look at the EMT, which is a basic in the state of Rhode Island. So the EMT at the national level is required to have 20 hours of training. And we will be looking later on at what we need to cover those national hours of training. They need 10 hours of local training, which would be state. The state of Rhode Island has set up train, which there are the 10 hours that are required. There are things that we can look at and courses we can take in there to satisfy the local. And then there's 10 hours of the individual. Individual can be many different things. They could be extra CAPC programs or other sites that we can find. We're going to look at that later on in the slides. So they are required to have a total of 40 hours, 20 national, 10 local, and 10 individual. You'll see that all of them are based on 50% national, and then 25% local, and 25% individual. An AEMT, as well as an AEMTC, which is cardiac, if you remember, if you got your license before January 1st, 2012. You need to follow these as well in the state of Rhode Island. So you need 25 hours of national. You need 12 and a half hours of local or state. You need 12 and a half hours of individual, which is going to give you a total of 50 hours to recertify your EMT license at the national level. And the National Registry Paramedic, the national, they are required to have 30 hours. The state, you are required to have 15 hours, as well as 15 hours of individual, giving the paramedic a total of 60 hours of recertification hours. So the national requirements for your EMT license. The National Registry accepts certain things for the recertification of your license. So programs that are from state EMS offices are an accepted lesson program. CAPC accredited education. There are different types and different places that we can get CAPC approved or accredited lessons. United States accredited academic credits. College courses or credits from National Registry alternative recertification policies. All these education must be directly related to EMS patient care. So let's take a look at CAPC. And what is CAPC? It's the Commission on Accreditation for Pre-Hospital Continuing Education. CAPC represents only that it is an accredited program that has met the CAPC standard for accreditation. So it is pre-hospital continuing education, and CAPC looks at this the commission looks at this and approves it for a lesson. These standards require sound educational offering determined by a review of objectives, teaching plans, facilities, and program evaluation. The next few slides that we're going to look at are what the national requirements are. And as we looked at the chart earlier, depending on the level, depending on the amount of hours that you were required to fulfill the recertification. So we're going to look at them, we're going to break them down into the different levels. Now, if you look at this one here, a national registered EMT has to do 20 hours of national, if you remember back at that chart. In that, we have this broken down into different categories that must be met, and you are required to meet at least these minimums. So a national registered EMT, again, it's 20 hours that they have to fulfill for the national portion. So we look at airway, respiration, and ventilation. In that category, you're required to do ventilation of at least 1 hour. You have to do at least a half an hour of oxygenation. The next category is trauma. In trauma, it's broken down into, you have to do a half an hour of trauma triage. You have to do a half hour of central nervous system injuries. You have to do a half hour of hemorrhage control. Continuing on with the National Registered EMT, the medical portion, or the medical section, is broken down again into certain hours and requirements. So special needs, you have to do 1.5 hours or 1.5 hours. OB, all right, obstetrics, you have to do a half hour. Infectious disease, a half hour. Pain management is a half hour. Psychiatric and behavioral emergencies is a half hour. Toxicology emergencies, and this is dealing with opioids, is a half hour. Neurological emergencies, seizures, is 1 hour. And immunological emergencies is a half hour. Continuing on with the nationally registered EMT, operations section. At-risk population is a half hour. Ambulance safety is a half hour. Field triage, this would be disasters and MCIs, is a half hour. EMS provider hygiene, safety, and vaccination is a half hour. We have to look at EMS culture safety, a half hour. Pediatric transport, a half hour. Crew resource management, 1 hour. EMS research, half hour. And evidence-based guideline would be a half hour. And the last section would be cardiovascular for the nationally registered EMT. Post-resuscitation care would be a half hour. Ventricular assist devices would be a half hour. Stroke would be a 1 hour lesson. Cardiac arrest would be 2 hours, and this is above and beyond your CPR card. In pediatric cardiac arrest. So this would cover what you would need for your EMT national registered license. So now we're looking at the nationally registered AEMT. As you remember, the national registered EMT was 20 hours, and AEMT is required to do 25 hours. So they have 5 hours more than an EMT. You're going to see that the sections are all the same. However, there may be 1 or 2 additions, or the hours have changed. So if you're an AEMT, and we also have to look at the airway, respiration, ventilation section, 2 hours for ventilation and a half hour for oxygenation. We also have to look at trauma, which is 1 hour for trauma triage here. Central nervous system, 1 hour. Hemorrhage control, half hour. And fluid resuscitation would be a half hour. For the AEMT in the medical section, again, we also have the special needs would be an hour. OB would be a half hour. Infectious disease, half hour. Medication delivery in this section would be 1 hour. So this is an addition above the EMT. Pain management, 1 hour. Psychiatric and behavioral emergencies, 1 hour. Toxicological, opioids again would be a half hour. Neurological or seizures would be a half hour. Endocrine emergencies, diabetes, that would be 1 hour. And immunological would be a half hour. So you see here that they have a few more things that are needed over just the EMT. Continuing with the AEMT is the operations section. Again, at risk, half hour. Ambulance safety, half hour. Field triage, again, this would be disasters or MCIs, half hour. EMS, hygiene, safety, and vaccination, half hour. EMS culture of safety would be a half hour. Pediatric transport, a half hour. Crew resource management would be 1 hour. EMS research would be a half hour. And evidence-based guideline would be a half hour. So we have a couple of added things in here, which gives us a little more time to get us to that 25 hours over the 20 that a EMT would need. In the last section for the AEMT would be the cardiovascular section. Again, post-resuscitation care would be a half hour. Ventricular assist device, half hour. Stroke would be 1 hour. Cardiac arrest, 2 hours. Again, this does not include your CPR license or card. Pediatric cardiac arrest would be 2 hours. And in addition to this one, in the AEMT would be the acute coronary syndrome would be 1 hour. The last certification that we're going to look at is the paramedic level. If you remember from the chart, they have 30 hours of national lessons that they need to take. Airway, respiration, and ventilation. If you note here, they have capnography added, so they have an extra hour in this section. So they have 2 hours of ventilation, 1 hour of capnography, and a half hour of oxygenation. The trauma section, again, they have trauma triage at 1 hour. Central nervous system injury will be 1 hour. Hemorrhage control, a half hour. And fluid control will be a half hour. At the paramedic level, in the medical section, special healthcare needs is 2 hours. It's 1 hour longer than what is needed as an AEMT. OB emergencies would be a half hour. Infectious disease would be a half hour. Medication delivery, 1 hour. Pain management, 1 hour. Psychiatric and behavioral emergencies is 1 hour. Toxicological emergencies, which would be opioids, is a half hour. Neurological emergencies, which would be going over seizures, is a half hour. Endocrine emergency or diabetes, 1 hour. And immunological emergencies would be a half hour. In the operations section for the paramedic level, they have 1 hour more than they would need at the AMT level. They need at-risk population, which is 1 hour. Ambulance safety is a half hour. Field triage, this would be disasters or MCIs, would be 1 hour. EMS provider hygiene, safety, and vaccination is a half hour. EMS cultural safety is a half hour. Pediatric support is a half hour. Crew resource management is 1 hour. EMS research is 1 hour. And evidence-based guidelines is a half hour. The last section for the paramedic is the cardiovascular section. Post-resuscitation care is a half hour. Ventricular device assist is a half hour. Stroke is 1.5 hours. That's a half hour longer than the AMT section. Cardiac arrest, 2 hours, again, not including your CPR card. Pediatric cardiac arrest is 2.5 hours. CHF is something that's added for the paramedic level. That's a half hour. And acute coronary syndrome is 1 hour. I added this chart here. I thought it'd be very helpful. This is something that is downloadable from the National Registry, so you can go to their site and you can find this there and download this. And what I think is helpful is it breaks down the different levels, EMR, to EMT, EMTA, and the National Registry paramedic. So it breaks it down into hours. It breaks it down into categories. So if you look to the left, the AVR is your airway, respiration and ventilation, and it tells you what you require for the hours for the level that you're at, as does the cardiology, trauma, medical, and the operations section. So you can find the level you are. You can go down the chart and find out what you need to do for those levels. To the right, in the gray section, which is very helpful, I believe, if you are taking an ACLS class, let's say. These classes go towards your EMT research. So let's take cardiology, the first column there. It's if you take an ACLS class, you can see where you can get the different certifications or accreditations for your EMT license by taking ACLS class. So there's a lot of cardiology stuff. So if there's a check mark next to those sections, again, this is something that you can use towards your EMT license. The medical, again, they're broken down into different sections. If you do an impact class, an ABLS, ALS. If we look at the special needs population, again, we have PALS, which many of us take, a peers course. Again, they will help in these different sections, and they will get you towards your certification for your license. So I thought this was a very helpful chart to put in. And again, you can get this from the National Registry. Just go to their website, and you will find this chart on there. So here are some options that we have to get some nationally approved courses that we can have. These are CAPC approved or others are state-approved agencies. So I have a couple listed here that I know of personally. That's why they're here. I'm sure there are others, but these are ones that I know of. So Prodigy EMS is a web-based site that you go to. It's www.prodigyems.com. They have a full national program there. Once you've completed their course, you have everything that you need for your national registry for the national section of it. So you get a completed course and you get a certificate saying that you have completed the national portion. It's cheap money. It's not very expensive. It's a good site to go to. I know a few people that have used it and they really enjoy it. They liked the information that they had there. Personally, Vector Solutions is the next one, is one that I use. It's at app.targetsolutions.com. What they have there is they have a CAPC approved section, and when you go into that section for your national license, they ask you what license you're going for, and they have things listed in there broken down into the sections that we talked about earlier. So you have your airway ventilation section, you have your medical section, capnography, and as you do courses in each section, again, they're all CAPC approved, and as you finish one section, you'll see the bar increase as you do a course. It lets you know when you've done 100% of that section. Again, it goes through all the sections. Once you've completed them all, then you have your certificates that you need to upload into your national and into train. So you've completed your national portion. The other thing that's good about Target Solutions that I like is you can take extra ones because they have extra lessons in each section, and that can go towards your individual. So you can also get some individual certificates as far as that goes. Another option that you have is to take an approved recertification class from a local training center. And there are a few in the state of Rhode Island here. So if you take a national or a recert class with them, they will cover the national portion, and I believe most of them will also cover the state portion, so you can get that done. So again, look up some different sites. If you're not sure, call the health department. I'm sure they have a list of approved recertification centers in the state of Rhode Island. Okay, so once you've completed all your lessons and you have your certificates, and now you're ready to send your information to the National Registry if you need to recertify for your national license. So here's what you need to do to recertify your national license. Right? So you need to log into the National Registry account. Okay. From the home page, log in. If you don't have an account, you will need to create one. You're going to need a username and a password for that. The next thing you need to do when you're prompted, update your user information. Step 3, you're going to submit electronic recertification. So click recertification, enter your education, and submit your application. Keep all your documents for 3 years in case you are audited. So make sure you hang on to those certificates. Make sure you know where they are and they're within reach at all times. Your application must be submitted no later than midnight the day that your certificate expires. So this chart here is showing us the state topics that need to be completed for 2023, 2024, and 2025. When you go onto the train website and you sign in to your account, this is accessible there, and you can find this information. You will find this chart. So we'll look here, and again we're gonna look at EMT, EMTA, AEMT, cardiac, and paramedic. So you'll see there are different hours that need to be completed and required. So in EMT, if we look here, again, we have mental health training of 3 hours, culture competency for EMS 2 hours, stroke for EMS 1 hour, pediatric skills 1 hour, documentation 1 hour, review requirements. This is what we're taking here, this course here, a half hour. And they need geriatric EMS 1.5 hours, which would complete their 10 hours of the state portion. So if you go on to train and you sign in to train, you will see the state has right on the first page, and you click on it and you can go to what your EMT license is. You can go in and these courses are in there. So if you go in and take these courses, it'll tell you have to complete one of two. Sometimes you have to complete every one of them in each section, but you'll see that you can highlight and go on those courses and take those and complete those. I will tell you that the documentation, I had one from my previous, which was 2021. I had to take it again. It updated me to 2024. So make sure they are all completed, green, and they have current dates for the license that is about to expire. So as we look for AEMT, and again, this is a national registered AEMT license. Again, if we look quick, 3 hours of the mental health, cultural competency 2 hours, stroke 1 hour, pediatrics skills of 1 hour, documentation 1 hour, half hour of renewal requirements, trauma 1 hour, geriatrics 2 hours, and ETOC, and this is for AEMTs only. The next category is AEMTC. So this would be the cardiac. This is the cardiac that does not have his national license, but he is a licensed cardiac. So you're required to do 3 hours of the mental health training, 2 hours of cultural competency for EMS, 1 hour, endotracheal, which is in addition that they don't do as an AEMT, stroke skills, 1 hour, pediatric skills, 1 hour, documentation, 1 hour, renewal requirements would be a half hour, trauma, 1 hour, geriatric EMS, 2 hours, and that would satisfy that. And for the paramedic level, again, they have to do 15 hours, so they need a little bit more time. They got 3 hours, same as everyone else for the mental health training, 2 hours for cultural competency for EMS, 2 hours for endotracheal, stroke 1 hour, pediatric skills 1 hour, documentation 1 hour, review requirements a half hour, trauma 1 hour, geriatric EMS 2 hours, community paramedicine, which is something that they do above what everyone else does, is an hour and a half, which would give them their 15 hours. So this is a good shot to look at. Again, you can find this on Train. So sign into Train to your account. You will see this there. Like I said in the previous slide, when you sign into Train and you click on that main screen for what's required for the state, it's going to bring you down to this screen here. So what you need to do, and very helpful, is to click on what you are or what level you're at. So I myself am an AEMTC. I would go down to AEMTC, click on that, and that's going to bring me to what I need to do for the state. Again, it's going to show me a chart. Again, I want I want everything to be green, completed, and make sure that the dates are good for the time that I am recerting my license for. The next slide, I'm just going to show you a sample of what that should look like. So we'll take a look at that slide, and that'll give you a better idea of what you're looking at. So like I said in this slide here, when you do click on that website that we looked at in the previous slide, it's going to bring you here. And as you can see, I'm kind of slacking a bit. I need to get moving, but if you look at the top one, it says that I passed. Field triage, endovascular stroke therapy. All right, so I passed that. It's verified that I passed that. It was taken on November 23rd, so my license is expiring on December 31st of 2024. So it is within my realm of my 18-month span that I needed to take that. So it's passed, it's verified. If you look at the rest of them, I need to go down. Let's look at the pediatric. Again, in there are three. There are two different sections in there. Okay? So what it says pediatric, one course is required. So I have to take one of those courses, and it has to be green, saying that I passed, and it has to be in a date range for my license renewal. All right, so make sure you go to train, go to your state site here, and you need to do all of these state lessons that need to be completed. This is just showing a portion. There are more. The individual component. Again, if you look at your different certification where you are, I am in EMTC, so I have to do 25 hours of national, 12.5 hours of state, and 12.5 hours of individual. Where do I get my individual? Here are some places that you can go to, right? So individual components, you can go to CAPC lessons that are above and beyond what you've done. Again, if I go back myself into Target Solutions and I've satisfied my national portion, there are other classes that I can take. They are CAPC approved. I can take those extra above and beyond something else, and I will get individual components for that one there. Other places that I know of, you can go to Boundary. So if you go to Boundary Medical, they have Boundary University. They have classes that you can take there. And again, you will get a certificate. When you get that certificate, you need to upload that into Train, so you get your time for your individual there. Another place that I know of that you can go is Rhode Island Energy offers electrical and gas safety lessons, which you can use to that because it's how to keep people safe. And so you can go to Rhode Island Energy and look for the courses that they have, which you get a certificate and you get time. Again, when you get that, you upload that into Train, and that will go towards your individual time. So we talked about the national and what you need to do to recertify your national and how you need to upload your information to the national. Let's talk about the state now. The state of Rhode Island, we have to upload our certificates, national, state, and our individual stuff. So how do we submit those non-trained certificates to the state? And this is how we do it. So the first thing we do is we sign into the Train portal. http www.train.org/Rhode Island. I think we've all been there, so you should be able to get there pretty easily. Enter your login and password. Your login would be your 5-digit EMT number with EMT in front of it. So EMT, I put the example here 000, right? But it's a EMT with your 5-digit EMT license. And then you have to put your appropriate password. If you don't have one or you forgot it, you need to do something to be able to access this. Once you're into Train, you want to click on Your Learning at the top. Once you've clicked there, you want to click on Your Transcripts. Then you click on Add an External Record. Enter the course information, so there will be page that'll open up, and there will be red bars. Anything that has a red bar has to have some type of information, so make sure you put the appropriate information in there. Enter the course information into those red fields, and then click Save. So now that you've entered all that information that we talked about in the previous slide, and you've clicked Save, now we have to take that certificate that you have, and we have to add that certificate in, so that is part of that lesson that you've had. So to upload an external certificate, what we need to do is we need to take that certificate, scan it, and save the certificate. Once you've done that, remember where you saved it, remember the name of it, click Your Learning, same as we did before. You're going to click Your Transcript, find the course that you entered manually, so that was the previous slide, so that course, what you named it, you want to find that, and when you find that, you're going to see 3 vertical dots on the left side of that. You want to click on that, and you will see a click Upload Certificate, so there'll be another bar coming up. I have a slide coming up with pictures, so you can see that better than me just explaining it to you. In the Upload Certificate window, enter the title of the certificate. You can either drop and drag the file into that, or you could click Upload the Certificate, and it'll ask you for the name of it. So that's how we get our certificate into the class that we just said we took. So after we have successfully uploaded, we want to click Save at the top right corner. Once the certificate has been saved, click Close at the top left corner. Your certificate is now going to be added to your Certificate tab. Now you can exit train, or if you have another class to upload to do, you can do your next class and upload the certificate in the same manner that we had just previously talked about. These slides here that I have this one and the next one, I've just added so you can visually see what you have to do. It shows you these are the instructions that I just read off to you. It just kind of gives you a visual. This is from Train and how you load that. They circled, again, click Your Learning, click the information. You see the page to the right, the red bar, so anything that has a red bar in it needs information in that. So put that appropriate information in those spots. This is a continuation of what we were just talking about. So again, this gets you from putting the information in, and this one here now we're looking at how do I get my certificate and attach that with the lesson that I just entered into the system. So this is how you get your certificate in there. Again, I just read it to you step by step. And if you have any problems, just you can go to Train, and that information should also be there. In summary here, again, an EMT license after January 1st of 2012 must maintain their EMT National Registry license. If your license is prior to that date, then you have to do the Rhode Island Continued Competency Program. So that would be a AEMT-C, or cardiac. Would have to do that portion of it. Remember that an AEMT must maintain their National Registry EMT certificate as an AEMT. And AEMT-Cs must complete the required Continued Competency Program. Paramedics must obviously maintain their paramedic license, their NRP license. And remember, all certificates must be loaded up to Train prior to the expiration of your license, as well as your national has to be uploaded if you have external courses to them. So you need to make sure that you get those added up to those. In conclusion, I hope that this presentation was helpful for you with your recertification process. I enjoyed putting it together, and I hope that it's helpful to you. Enjoy your career, folks, and have a great time at it. Thank you.